Yeah, well, since you got on that topic, I just want to take a moment to express my condolences for the employees and the families and friends of the employees
Yep.
from American Eagle Flight 5342, as well as our service people who lost their lives in the incident that you're referring to over the Potomac. Um, you may or may not remember this, but I actually um, some decades ago actually worked for the parent company, American Airlines, as a flight crew.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that even though I still have relatives in the industry, I cannot imagine anything more terrifying than waking up and hearing that any air disaster has occurred,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's everybody's worst nightmare.
That's right.
If you know or love someone in that industry, and or if you're a customer of that industry, and that doesn't leave a lot of people,
Mm-mm.
left after that. So, um, but comments like that are especially disturbing because I will tell you this. I did the math earlier today, and I have spent about two-thirds of my life kicking ass and taking names. There's not anything the president of anybody can say about me personally that I can take personally because I already know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I've done, I know what I've been through, etc. So I do take exception with people who have not had that experience or who do not know me very well and they can't even speak to that experience. I take exception to them making disparaging comments.
Yeah.
I'll just put
Yeah.
it out there. I think it would be as ridiculous as if I sat here and started saying, well, farmers from Texas in the 1950s who, on and on and on. Like, dude, I don't know. I don't know. And I haven't even read about it. But if I read about it, I still don't know if that's true. So if you are not big enough, man enough, woman enough, professional enough, sane enough to seek out people who you think you might have an issue with, then I don't know how much mental energy should even be expended toward you. Like, what do they call it? Living in somebody's mind rent free. You're not gonna be able to do that in mine. So I'm human, so just like everybody else, my knee jerk reaction initially is, wow, I cannot believe, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
especially when it hits as close to home as an industry where I know I've worked.
Yeah.
Um, it's just hard. I mean, I did read a statement, a post by I'll just say a local legislator that happened to have worked in aviation. And this is somebody I'm familiar with. He and I have talked about, his experience as a pilot and mine as a flight attendant for the same company, even though we never knew each other in that capacity. But he put the longest, most detailed post. Like he could have been interviewed on any of the news outlets and spoken very intelligently based on his 30 plus years in the industry, what more likely than not occurred for everything to happen. And as someone else, like I said, who worked in the industry, my curiosity got the best of me because knowing this person the way I do, the last thing I wanted to do was read some political nonsense, coattailing the current president on his, in my opinion, nonsensical comments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was so happy and relieved to find out that this gentleman, there was nothing about politics in there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere. All he talked about was fact, 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 fact. Now, at the end of the day, is he the same person that I knew prior to reading that? Absolutely. But that lets me know that it is possible to step away from whatever your political leanings are, your cultural leanings, whatever you want to call it, and just have a sensible conversation with people.
Yeah.
Like, who can't do that?
And I'd hate to. I don't know this person personally, but it also kind of gets me. The more I think about it, it upsets me because I know so many people who are put in those situations where it's really just like a hierarchy of, I guess, your thoughts and what you find important. So a lot of people will say, "How could you bring politics? We're talking about children." And then when the tables are turned, when it comes to other children, all of a sudden they want to spew nonsense that has no factual basis to it. So that's one thing that I think you'll see a lot of. And really with any tragedy, I've noticed that over the years, if someone's close enough to it, like a pilot, and their president said some crazy stuff about him being a pilot, he'll probably say something. Now, he probably won't point out, oh, what the president said was nonsense, but he
Nope,
will
and he
say,
didn't.
we should all join hands and
Mm-hmm.
politics has no place here and
Mm-hmm.
XYZ. And the more you think about it, politics has very little place in our daily lives. And you see that with how we coexist as a nation. Everybody wants to get behind their keyboards and say this or talk to somebody they don't know and call them all sorts of names. But if you work with somebody who has similar beliefs, or if you live with somebody who has similar beliefs, you're not going to come at them any which way unless you're trying to have confrontation. And that's kind of what I think you'll see. You've seen it for decades, but you'll definitely see it more and more now whenever we have tragedies like this or things going on in the Middle East where people don't realize, or maybe they choose not to say they realize, how similar we really are in a lot of ways. So when we have tragedies happening at home, it shouldn't matter about DEI or about who the president is or about the gas prices. We should all be there for each other when certain things occur, especially something that is as life-changing as that incident that happened over the Potomac. And again, I don't like picking on the president. He just makes it so easy. The fact that you had somebody who immediately went on social media instead of just getting down there as soon as possible, giving his condolences, talking about, well, this probably happened because of DEI, because these people have no place here, and you filed bankruptcy 6 times. How many mistakes have you made? Crucial mistakes that have probably cost people jobs. Probably should have cost you being the president. You've made more mistakes than anybody, and when you have the chance to be the bigger person, the bigger man, time after time, you've shown that you're not capable of doing that. And that's why we have these issues in America, because at least half the country that went out and voted for this person, despite him being exactly who he says he is. People are like, yeah, that's who I want to be my president. That's who I agree with. But again, when things are in your neck of the woods, you know, we have drugs in my city and no one's doing anything about it. But then when you see drugs in urban cities or cities that don't necessarily look like you, all of a sudden they're animals, they're terrible people, what have you. So it makes me so upset because however often we talk about this, and so many people are missing the point that we should all be on the same team. We should all be on the same page, but we've proven as a society that we're not capable of doing that yet. And I don't know what the turning point would be where we can finally do that.
Well, this may be the turning point, because unfortunately, a lot of times things have to get really bad. I know the populations that I'm working with now, people coming out of recovery and trying to rebuild their lives and everything, that is a population that really does transcend race, creed, economic level, and certainly politics. And it's just, how can I say this? When people are trying to rebuild their lives, the term rock bottom comes up, right? Like sometimes people have to go back through, and not just recovery. When you talk about people, justice involved, they have to go back through the system a few times before it actually sticks. And they're like, okay, this isn't going to happen to me anymore. I've hit my rock bottom. Well, I think as a country, we are very, very rapidly approaching our rock bottom. And, so when you ask the question, what's it going to take? I think this is what it's going to take. I wish this wasn't what it was going to take, because this is going to hurt everybody.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt people based on, well, your economic level, yes, but if you can hear my voice, you're probably in the economic level that's going to be hurt by it.
Yeah.
Gender, sexual preference, race, religion, there's not going to be a group other than the 1% that we've talked about. And we don't even know what's going to go on with them because the fire it's getting kind of close
Hmm.
to the so-called allies and friends. But I just feel like it is going to take something that hurts almost everybody. Because right now, you have been so indoctrinated that when you hear my voice and when you hear the things I'm saying, a wall immediately goes up.
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
Um, and so, unfortunately, I think it's going to have to be at your doorstep before you realize, OMG,